So consider the function, and let me rewrite this, 7x to the 4th power minus 48x to the 3rd power minus 16x to the 2nd power plus 67x minus 28. Okay? And we want to solve this. In other words, we're going to set this equal to 0 and we want to solve. So this is example 1. Solve. So we want to find all the values of x, okay, that make this expression on the left equal 0. Now you've done this before with quadratics, right? You'd factor the quadratic. So remember with a quadratic, if it looked like ax squared, be sure to write this down, plus bx plus c equals 0, you would factor, right? And you get something like this, x, I don't know, minus p times the quantity x minus q, or plus, it doesn't matter, equals 0. Do you guys remember doing that? And then you would say x minus p equals 0. And then you would say x minus q, where p and q are numbers, right? And they could be positive or negative. And then you add p to both sides. Do you guys remember doing that? And you get like x equals p. And if you do the same thing over here, you get x equals q, and those are your solutions. Whoops, not p, it's q. Do you guys remember doing that? And we said that those are the solutions, right? But they're also the zeros because it's set equal to 0. And then we said they were, what are some other terms those are called? Solutions, zeros. Anybody else remember? Roots. You guys remember that? Because sometimes we'll take the square root to solve that. All right. Why can't we do this here? Well, because it's hard. So what we need to do is we need to make this look like x something something times x something something times x something something times x something something equals 0. Does that make sense? And that's a long process that requires division of polynomials. So we're going to cheat a little bit, okay? We're going to graph this. So turn on your graphing calculator. And I want you to plug that into the graphing calculator. So go to y equals. Make sure you have the little line. Does everybody have the little line under y equals? Also hit clear. You might have some equations in there because I use these calculators a lot. So hit clear. Make sure there are no other equations in here. Okay? There's no information in here. So now we're going to plug this in. I'm going to say 7, and here's the X button. So those of you that haven't used this calculator before, this button right here has an X on it. Hit X. Now to get the superscript, x to the 4th power, see this little symbol here? That's called the caret symbol. It looks like an arrow that points up. You're going to hit that button. Then you're going to hit 4. And so you should make it look like this. And that's how I put this first term, 7x to the 4th. Okay? What do I put next? But before I move on, does everybody have this put in their calculator? Does anybody need help? I can get up and walk over or help you, or one of my first semester students can help you because they're really good at this. Because we did it so many times. Okay? You might be good at it too. I just don't know for sure. All right, so now we do the next term. So I'm going to say minus, subtract 48x caret symbol to the 3. Okay? Then I'm going to, I want everybody to plug this in your calculator. Make sure you get the practice, okay? You need to get the practice. Then the next term is minus 16x raised to the 2. And then I hit plus 67x minus 28. So make sure you have on your screen what I have on my screen. Okay, and I'll zoom it out big so you guys can see it. Make sure you have every one of those. And make sure it's the minus sign, or the subtraction sign, not the negative sign. Those are two different things. The subtraction sign is in the middle and it's long. The negative sign is up towards the top and it's short. So make sure that you have the subtraction symbol or the minus symbol. Okay? Now this is going to be a big graph. Okay, so we're going to hit zoom, this button right here, the zoom button, and you should get a menu like this. I'll wait for you guys to do it. This is the zoom button. When you hit this button, you'll get a menu that says zoom, and I'll have a bunch of different options down here. We want to go down to, you just hit the cursor, the up or down button. This will get you anywhere on the screen, left, right, up or down. We're going to go down to option 0, which is zoom fit. Now, if you hit 0, it'll do zoom fit, but if you scroll down and hit enter, it'll hit zoom fit. When you do that, it fits it to the graph. In other words, it zooms in or out based on what the graph does. Okay? Now, I can zoom in more or zoom out more. But what I want to do is I want to find a place where I think it crosses the x-axis. So I'm looking and it looks like it crosses the x-axis here. It crosses other places, but it looks like it crosses here. Does that make sense? So how do I know for sure? Well, let's figure out what this x value is. So this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, see this button here that says trace? Click on trace. And once you click on trace, here's the equation up here. It says x equals 0, or it might say x equals something else. And then it gives you the corresponding y value. The next step is critical. Just hit 7. And what that's telling the calculator is, let's figure out what the y value is of this equation here if we plug in 7 for x. When I hit enter, I get y equals 0. Does that make sense? So what does that mean? Well, it means that 7 is a solution. Okay? That means that 7 is a solution. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. Now normally there's another way to figure out, basically what we got to do is we kind of got to guess what one of the solutions might be for synthetic division. But one little shortcut is that we sketch the graph. So we're just going to, and it doesn't have to be fancy. What information do I want you to do? Well, the information that I want you to do is just kind of sketch like a rough graph and highlight that point right there. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then just say, well, when x equals 7, y equals 0, right? And remember, this is in alphabetical order, x, comma, y. And for function notation, because this is a function, it's really x comma what, guys? F of x. Okay? It's really f of x. Okay. All right. So what does that mean? Well, that means I've got something like this where x equals 7. That's one of the solutions. So now how do I make this equal 0? I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. That gives me x minus 7 equals 0. So then that tells me that x minus 7 is a factor. Okay? Just keep that in mind. That's important. So if I go back up here, what I'm really saying is that x minus 7 divides into, evenly, I might add, 7x to the 4th minus 48x to the 3rd minus 16x squared plus 67x minus 28. Okay? Well, let's see. What do I multiply this 1x by to get 7? What do I multiply this by to get this? 7, positive 7. Okay? And then I think, what do I multiply x by to get x to the 4th? So what I got to think, what I have to think is x to the 1st power times x to something equals x to the 4th. What's that something got to be? They have to add up to 4. X cubed or x to the 3rd. So now, remember, I'm going to multiply this by this, but I also have to do it by negative 7. So I do that first. What's 7 times negative 7? Negative 49. What do we do with the x cubed? Do we throw it away? No, we just tack it on. So what I did is I said this, whoops, I multiplied this by this negative 7, and that becomes negative 49x cubed. We line up the x cubes with the x cubes. Next thing I'm going to do is multiply this 7 times 1. That gives me 7. Then I multiply x to the 3rd power times my x to the 1st power. That gives me x to the 4th power. What do we do here? Add opposites. Please write this in your notes. It'll give you something to read on the when you go to take the test. Okay, so this is negative. This becomes positive. 7x to the 4th power minus 7x to the 4th power is 0. And then 49 minus 48 is just 1. Right, 1x cubed. Drop down the 16, negative 16x squared. And then I think to myself, what do I multiply 1x by to get 1x cubed? Well, really what I'm thinking is x to the 1st power times x to something gives me x to the 3rd. What do I add here? 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So now I'm going to say plus x squared. So then I say, well, what is a positive x squared times negative 7? Negative 7x squared. Oh, I forgot to write the 2 there. Now, what is x squared times x to the 1st power? X to the 3rd. Remember, I got to add the opposites. So this becomes negative and this becomes positive. X cubed minus x cubed is 0. What's negative 16 plus 7? Heck, I don't know. That's too much for me, Mr. Adams. This is already a long problem as it is. I just plug it in the calculator. Negative sign down here, tiny. Negative 16 plus 7. Negative 9. So that becomes negative 9x squared. Drop down the positive 67. Okay? All right, let's keep going. To get negative 9x squared, don't I multiply that by negative 9x? Because negative 9 times 1 is negative 9, x times x is x squared, but I have to multiply that by the negative 7. Negative 9 times negative 7, oops, this has got an x on it, is a positive 63, and then you tack on the x. Negative 9x times x is just a positive 9x squared. Again, we add the opposites. So this becomes a negative. This becomes a negative. Okay? We're almost done. 67 minus 63 is 4x. Drop down the negative 28. What do I multiply x by to get positive 4x? Positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Four times x is just positive 4. Again, we add the opposites. This becomes negative. This becomes positive. We get a remainder of 0. So our answer then is 7x cubed plus x squared minus 9x plus 4. Now that's long division. That's really confusing, right? Well, there's an easier way. You still need to know how to do long division, but let's try this using synthetic division. Synthetic division works like this. We're going to write the same problem down, and we're going to say, and we're starting to run out of time. We're going to do, instead of, we said that m minus 7 was a factor, so we're just going to put the negative 7 here. In other words, not m. We said that x equals 7. So if x equals 7, then we're going to do this. We're going to say negative 7. And then remember that we had 7x to the 4th and negative 48x, x to the 3rd minus 16 m squared plus 67 m, well, it's x, not m. Minus 28. Well, because I put the negative 7 here, I'm just going to write these coefficients. So I'm going to say negative 7, negative 48, negative 16, plus 67, minus 28. Now this algorithm is easy. Drop the first term. 7. Remember, this represents the x to the 4th, this represents the x to the 3rd, this represents x squared, This represents x, and technically this represents x to the 0. What's negative 7 times negative 7? Negative 49. Actually, you know what? Erase this. I wrote this down wrong. This should be just positive 7. So 7 times 7 is a positive 49. Right? When you add that up, isn't this just 1? Now what's 7 times 1? 7. When you add these up, isn't this a negative 9? What's 7 times negative 9? Negative 63. Add these up. This is 4. What's 7 times 4? Positive 28. When you add that up, that's 0. This is your remainder. You go 1 power less, so this is 7x to the third plus 1x squared plus minus 9x plus 4. Isn't that the same answer? See how that works? So that's it. That's all we have time for today.